So, welcome back to the ThriveS podcast. Today, I'm excited to be able to introduce our guest, Shawn Hill, who is a managing partner at Garden State Venture Partners. Shawn, just quickly introduce yourself for the people watching.
Yeah. Hello to everyone. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it, and it's great to be back
Okay.
here. I'm Shawn Hill. As you said, managing partner at Garden State Venture Partners. Happy to talk about that here. But Garden State Venture Partners is a venture firm that was recently created with partnership from Rowan University. So Garden State Venture Partners manages the current Rowan Innovation Venture Fund, but Garden State Venture Partners is a larger entity which raises capital to invest in companies that have a direct economic impact in the state of New Jersey. So those are startups in a lot of different industries. I can talk more about that later, but
Okay.
excited to drive a lot of entrepreneurship and impact in the place I
Nice.
grew up.
Nice. So, just quickly going over your birthplace, you're from South Jersey.
Yeah, so I moved here when I was 8 years old from
Okay.
from Miami. So
Nice.
everyone asked me if I'm a Phillies fan, and unfortunately, I'm I'm a Miami fan still.
Yeah.
So Dan Marino and I have the same birthday, so it's
Nice.
cosmic. Yeah, my when he retired, my whole family switched over to the Birds and the Phillies and everyone else. So I'm the only Miami fan in the house. But I moved here when I was 8, so I'm basically from Jersey.
That's
So.
funny. And then you graduated from Rowan.
I graduated from went to Lenape High School, Mount Laurel,
Okay.
New Jersey.
Okay, nice.
So local kid here that came down. Was quite interesting. Had a lot of opportunities to go other places, Rutgers, other places, but ended up at Rowan. I think I just wanted to play soccer. That was
Yeah.
that's why I came here. So, and I couldn't play at Rutgers; they were too good at the time. So,
Yeah.
I think that's why Rowan won. So.
All right. So we know your background is very large. So while we're talking about the early days, I want to know
Yeah.
like was there a passion for business growing up? Was there like a mentor you had? So what was that? Or was it just kind of like random going into it when you got older?
So, yes. So, if you would have told me where I am today, I wouldn't have believed you. And so, I have some really interesting, just sort of experiences around one being from South Jersey, two going to Rowan, and then going all over the globe and working and how I got here. And a lot of people ask the question, like, did you want to be in venture capital? Did you want to be a private equity? Like, how'd all this thing happen? And
Yeah.
like, I don't even know because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got to school.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to play ball, and I went to school with my best friend, and like that's as far ahead as I thought. And then even through school, I probably spent more time in the rec center and the soccer field than I did in the library. Like
Mm-hmm.
I hope no one looks at my transcripts because it's I've said like when Rowan was doing due diligence on me, I'm like, oh man, I hope they don't look at my grades because I barely got out of here. But part of it is that's kind of who we are. And I remember my first job interview, like, "What's your grade point average?" Is like the only time anyone asked me, and
Yeah.
I told him, and he said, "Good. I don't like nerds." And
That's
so
funny.
that was the last
That's
time.
hilarious.
But I had to answer your question, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I could talk and like I enjoyed being in a room. So I said, I'll probably just go into sales. So how do I get a degree and get out of here and go do that?
Yeah.
So
Did you ever get like really into sales after
I did.
college or
So after I got out of school, worked at it was PHH and Sendent, which was in Mount Laurel. It
okay.
was the largest. It was one of the largest mortgage companies, and they were owned by Century 21 and Coldwell Banker, the company that owned them. And so it was like 700 salespeople, and everyone was my age, and they were just like hiring 50 to 100 like 22-year-olds. And so I was like, I'll go work there. And the
Just
schedule was 1 to 10, so I'm like, we could go out every night afterwards and
oh my
and
God.
sleep until noon the next day. So I mean, I had no idea. I just like knew, just get me on the phone, let me talk to people, and I'll figure it out. um but that, I also knew that like I was smart enough to, like, I didn't want to be a salesperson in a desk chained to
Hmm.
a phone for my entire career. So I was very deliberate in how I thought about, once I had a few years under my belt, and I could talk about that more. Like, it was more, I graduated with a management degree, but who's going to let anyone manage at 22, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like my mom's best friend was an HR director, so I got an internship in HR, and I said maybe I'll do that. And then I saw the pay scale, and I was like maybe I won't do that, and like I'll just go sell, and I'll figure
Yeah.
it out from there.
How did you get good at sales? Was it like you were naturally good at it, or was it one of those things where
Uh,
people were hanging up the phone on you in the first 30 seconds at first?
you know what? I was a really I was kind of shy as a kid, but
Hmm.
when I got to college, everything changed. Um, it was probably I'd played 3 sports my entire life. I think it was like the sports thing, and I could be around people.
Hmm.
And then I started high school at 5'1", graduated at 6'1", and I think I just like I was a different person, like physically, and
Hmm.
all these other. And I grew another few inches in college, and I just like college really. I just got my confidence,
Hmm.
and you know when you get to school, um, I was around a lot of older people, a lot of the older guys on the team, and like we just had this big, and you have to navigate your way through team dynamics, and I think that just like gave me a bunch of confidence, and then I don't know, I just like I grew into myself, and I think that just translates really well into when you're not scared to get turned down by a girl or or whatever it is, or talk, or then I think that just equates to you can be around people, and sales is a people business. And
Yeah, of
so
course.
I think that's just like a lot of rejection at a fraternity party probably got me used to sales. So yeah, so
So like hearing your story, it sounds like at first you weren't sure, and then like you just like kind of were not thrown into, but you
yeah,
decided to take a path.
yeah.
What was the point in college where it was like, all right, like I need to, it couldn't maybe been after college, but what was the point where it's like, all right, I really need to focus? Because with your background, it's like you can't just do that by just falling into it. You have a very
Well,
extensive.
I tell people network deliberately. And when I got into the room with 700 other salespeople with headphones on, and I
Hmm.
was like, I don't know how this sounds. So I was like, I'm too smart for this. Like, this is fine, and I'll make some money, and I'll have a good time, but like, I need to be in a situation where I can rise above the other people. And I didn't get that motivation until well after college. I didn't have it during college. I knew I was smart, but I didn't know what that meant. I just know school was easy, and I didn't have to do much. So I said, I want to get to the management level. So and I said, I probably can't do that here. And so I'll tell you the story. It was the summer of 2001. I swear I was in the shower and I like had this epiphany, and I'm like, I'm moving to Manhattan, and I'm going to live in a small apartment in Hell's Kitchen, and I'm just going to go to New York. Cause that's what like half of my friends went to Philly, half went to New York. Right.
Hmm.
And so 9/11 happened in September, and I
Hmm.
was like, oh, I'm probably not going to go to New York. I wish I would have now. Rents were cheap.
Yeah.
My dad was from Chicago originally, so I said, I'd never been to Chicago, and
Yeah.
I said, I'm just gonna move. And so January 1st of 2002, I moved, and like that was what changed. I had to get out of. I've had the same friend since I've been 8 years old. I went to college with my friend, and so I just
Yeah.
needed to get away and start something brand new. And I tell people like all the time, I did the 6 months in Europe after school. Like I just had to get away. And actually, the biggest story, and this is what my best friend passed away when we were in college. So like I had to learn to deal with that at a very young age, and then I just kind of needed to go, and that's just what like set people have different things that happen to them. And like for me, it just made me mature much faster, and I was
Hmm.
like, I want to go see the world now. Life is short, and I moved, and that really changed my path because once I got to the big city, it's just different. Like there's only so much you could go to a business park in Mount Laurel.
Hmm.
I like stepped into downtown Chicago, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go put on a suit. I'm gonna go ride a train. I'm gonna
Yep.
go do it with the big boys. And that was the way that I realized how the real world works, and like how you have to network deliberately to get where you want. And so that turned me into give me the first job on the sales desk.
Hmm.
And then I literally walked into my boss's office and I said, I want that management job. And he said, okay, you can have it. And I was shocked. He's like, the woman that was doing, he's like, she's not that good. She's going to leave anyway,
Hmm.
and you can have it. And then all of a sudden, I'm managing 22 people at 23 years old.
Wow.
And that's when you just learn that you have to, and then it's sink or swim.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't a mentor so much. It was just, I kind of knew it. I wanted to rise above. And that was the way to do it. And then it just kept going and going. And I was like, I'm just going to ask for the things that I want. And I'm going to try to outwork everyone else to get there. And it was just so strange for me because I was just so lazy
Yeah.
because I could just get by before. And then it
Yeah.
was like, how do I take it to the next level?
Yeah, that's kind of been like that was me and Jimmy's whole thing with starting our business. We were just like, dude, like we get one shot at this whole like at life. So like let's just do something like crazy. And crazy decisions make get you
Yeah.
crazy outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's why we've just become like in love like with this risk of just constantly just going after everything that,
Yeah.
we could want.
Well, you guys are much different than I was because I saw the corporate game
Mhm.
and I was not ready to take the risk as an entrepreneur. And I got to entrepreneurship much later on. I just said, wait, I can see how this corporate game works. And who do you have to align yourself with? And someone told me something in the corporate side was like, your boss really doesn't matter. It's your boss's boss
Mhm.
because they really make the decisions. And so I would constantly align myself with try to figure out how to. And when I got out of that first management job, I parlayed that into another one. And like I was kind of with the senior VP that was 2 levels above, and she
Mhm.
guided my career for the next decade. And so every time she would just put me in positions that I was probably too early for, but she said, just do it. And I trust you. And like everyone needs those type of mentors to get them. And whether it's on the entrepreneurship side or on the
Mhm.
corporate side. And so I parlayed that all the way into the first 10 years to 2008. And then the Great Recession happened. I was in the mortgage business and everyone got fired.
Yeah.
So that was my interesting point of like, didn't matter how good you were or what you did, but I worked my way up to the youngest VP in the bank. And like what you learn when you do that early on, and you'll see this in your careers, is like when you're successful early, people take shots
Mhm.
and you're too young to do this, or you can't do this, or you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. How do and it was I thought the world was nice until you get into, especially on the corporate side. I think on the entrepreneurship side it's different, and that was also 25 years ago, but
Okay.
I really got my feelings hurt because I
Yeah.
thought like, hey, if you just do good, and like it's not how the real world works. So that was like, I call that sort of the first third of my career was sort of just getting to 2008 and then watching the world implode, and having a front row seat for it. And then what? And
Yeah.
so then I got into software, um, and but it was back into sales first. So I like went back to the place where I'm like, oh, okay, let me go sell. And so I did that. But then I got to work for a private equity firm and learn that was more, how do you operate really well?
Mhm.
So how do you look at a company, do due diligence, see what the things that are there, and then then acquire the company and then manage those people that we're managing, and then look at all the metrics of the company. And when you're on the private equity side, you're trying to get to EBITDA and margins of 20-30% of profitability.
Mhm.
Like that's, it's not startup where you're losing money all the time. It's like constantly trying to manage, trying to make little tweaks to the business to find ways to get more out of the business, right? It's always like,
Yeah.
how do you squeeze a little bit more out of this? And whether it's adding technology or getting rid of people or consolidating processes. So that was like my next. And then I had a boss again that was phenomenal that put me in a bunch of positions I probably wasn't qualified for, but says just do it. So maybe that comes back to your question. I think a lot of times when you're put in really uncomfortable places, people sink or swim, and I just like wasn't gonna sink. And so um, I think that's
Okay.
kind of where I honed in on that
Yeah.
was early in on my career, where I was just like, man, if I don't do this, no one's going to teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
And just you have to do it for yourself a lot of times.
So like how do you so for example, if you get put in a position to where it's like I do not think I am ready for this, how do you thrive in that area? What is the number one trait that you have that makes you win?
So that was probably recently, like when in 20 during COVID, when I left the venture firm.
Mhm.
And I like to talk about the venture firm, like how I got into that in a second. But I was constantly working with entrepreneurs, and I'd
Mhm.
never been one. And I was like, this isn't fair for me to give all of this advice. And I haven't, like, I don't know what it's like to start a company and try to make payroll
Hmm.
and like not get paid yourselves and do all the things that entrepreneurs do. So let me go do that. And so no one teaches you, no one teaches you work ethic, resilience. And I think it's the biggest thing is like, how do you manage the unknown in your head?
Hmm.
It's like, you don't know what you're doing. You no one's really there to help you because they don't know. And it's like, how do you manage that personal anxiety that you have to like
Yeah.
get through? Because it can be debilitating when you question yourself, when you question what you're doing, when other people are questioning you. I think the biggest thing is it was that confidence of "Ah, it's going to be okay,
Hmm.
regardless of the outcome. And I think it's really easy to say, it's hard to do because you're questioning yourself and the imposter syndrome is so real.
Yeah.
I dealt with the imposter syndrome back to Rowan. I got to I got recruited to go work in Silicon Valley at DocuSign, and they were like, it was like watching a TV show. This like rocket ship software company, and I walk into downtown San Francisco, and like all the drinks are free and all the food's free and everything's free, and there's happy hours every day, and it's like watching the show Silicon Valley, and I was like, what am I doing here? Right. I'm like, and I used to say, like, I'm just a state school kid from Jersey.
Yeah.
Right. And so you like get you, and I walk in and everyone's from Berkeley and Stanford and LinkedIn and Google and Facebook. And I'm just like, what am I doing here? Right. And
Yeah.
it was probably a lot of that rejection in sales that I got, or a lot of that, like being in really awkward places and you
Hmm.
question yourself. And then it just took me a few weeks, a few months to get my sea legs and like get stable. And I'm like, okay, I belong here.
Hmm.
And where do you get that from? It's like your question. Like, how do you, not everyone has it. You can't teach it. Part of it is you have to go through, I guess, some trials and tribulations to like get knocked down and get back up and all those other things. I don't know. I think you have to have a supreme belief in yourself
Yeah.
in any situation, whether it's corporate, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, and that you deserve to be in the room is, I think most of the times it's just your mind.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I didn't go to the right school. I don't have the right background. I don't have enough experience. Whatever that thing is, I don't know if it's pushing it down inside, using it as motivation, all those other things, but it was one of the things that like as soon as I could get my head around, you're supposed to be here, you know what you're doing. If you don't know, just shut up, write it down, go home, figure it out, and come back the next day better. Like I think that was kind of it. So
I feel like that's so important with our age now too, because
yeah,
like social media, everything seems like we're from South Jersey, and it's like when you see these big people in New York and all these big
Miami,
cities,
all
yeah,
yeah,
that stuff.
it's like that's so overwhelming because we don't see that a lot down here.
yeah.
So I feel like fear is huge with us and not taking those risks. Something that we've noticed, I feel like, in my opinion, and that he's seen, like jumping in is the only way you're gonna learn.
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
you just got to do it. Like the problems are gonna incur. Like that's it's just how you navigate it. So I think that's important that
I
we
can tell as
emphasize
a
that.
South Jersey kid, I spent so much time in New York, never lived there. I lived in Miami for a decade. I lived in San Francisco twice, Chicago twice, San Diego. Like I saw a lot of things. I lived in South Beach for almost 7 years. Like you talk about like, and it's kind of all BS. Like, and I
Yeah.
can't imagine, seeing that now, but like you look at those places and most of it's it's just it's the perception of what people want you to see.
Hmm.
And in Miami, we called it like $1,000 millionaires, like people driving around the really expensive car and they
Yeah.
go park at their mom's house. Like, it just is what it is. And like New York's different and LA is different and all those, like, I've been lucky to be, a lot of places around the world, Tokyo and London and like try to do business, and
Hmm.
everyone's the same no matter where you go. And it's this
Wow.
thing that we have. It's the chip on the shoulder that we have as Jersey kids. Not only like we have it as like even in our own state, we're not North Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like the New Yorkers piss on the North Jersey kids, they piss
Yeah.
on the South Jersey kids, and like, you know, that's what we do, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like it just rolls downhill. And so we have this like thing that's in us that like we're just as good as everybody else, right?
Hmm.
And like we say we're from Philly or New York when we're not here, and you know, just to associate. So I associate a lot of that just like with the grit and toughness and the chip on our shoulders that we have. I'll tell you one of the biggest chips on my shoulders when I got to the venture fund. I was working at DocuSign. My first day, out with the CFO and my boss, and I meet this woman, and I said, "What do you do?" And she said, "I'm an investor." And I said, "What do you invest in?" She said, "I led your Series A. I'm on your board." And I said, "Can I buy you a glass of wine?" And she said, "Sure." And like, I didn't know who she was. And like, obviously, and you know, we started talking and I said, "What do you do?" She said, "I have a venture fund." I said, I don't, and like inside, I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Right. And, she's like, "What do you do?" And I said, like, what the things. She's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And we became friends. And I was like, this lady's important. And I'm going to make friends with her and I'm going to figure out the things that she needs. And over 2 years, it was always in my head. I'm like, I'm going to go work for her. I don't know what that means.
Mhm.
I don't even know what venture capital is, but it's going to be cool to tell someone at a bar.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to go do that. And like, but I kept saying, like, I'm just a state school kid from Jersey. Like, I didn't go to Harvard or Yale or Princeton or any of these. Like, do I have the right to do that? And I finally got the job offer and I was like, man, I'm gonna go do that. And everyone's like, that's like there are less partners at 50 plus $1 million venture funds than there are professional athletes. Like it's a hard job to get, right? But is it luck? It wasn't. Maybe it was luck that I met her.
Hmm.
It wasn't luck that I spent 2.5 3 years like getting to a place where she saw value in what I did. And so either I'm like really really lucky or I'm deliberate in the way that I meet people and network. And I think for young people now, you have to be deliberate in what you do and you have to get outside of your circle in order to meet other people that are influential. And that's
Yeah.
the biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone young is get out of your house and get on a plane and go to like I can't tell you how many lobby bars I've been to, how many conferences I've been to, and like go and you don't sit in the corner because you never know who you're gonna meet. And
Yeah.
everyone that I know is because I've met them somewhere else. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you every single day, my phone, I get like, can you introduce me to someone somewhere? And it's the most random thing, and they're like, and I'm like, yeah, hold on, I'll find someone. And that is what gets you further in life than anything else is the people that you know. And if you build a company, it's a distribution partner somewhere else, or it's someone that can help you or someone that's done that. And all of that, all of the background, one time is lucky. When it
Hmm.
keeps happening, it's deliberate.
Yeah.
And it's deliberately networking. Find the person that in your industry or that you think and start trying to get a relationship now for 3 years from now. Because I go back to I have an intern that worked for me 15 years ago, and now he started a company, and now we're doing some stuff together, and I can help him, now. And that's because we've kept in touch for 15 years,
Yeah.
and and all those other things. So I really think one of the things that I find difficult in your generation is people haven't had the opportunity through COVID or whatever it was to like get out in the world. And if I hadn't have left here, then I don't know what I'd be doing, but it's not this, right? There's just not an opportunity. There wasn't an opportunity for me. I could never have been in venture capital in South Jersey. There's just not a venture firm until now. But
Yeah.
like, you have to get out of that circle, and whether it's travel, whether it's work, like take the job that flies you all around, so you can go meet people all over the world.
That's great.
Yeah,
I another thing I want to talk about too. You went from like a college kid unsure of what you wanted to do to sales to like operations, and then now you went to venture capitalist. Like,
yeah,
was there something in venture capitalist that you saw was like, okay, this is where I need
yeah,
to be. This is
yeah.
where I'm calling to.
So the sales thing was, it was easy for me. And I said, in order to be a great salesperson, I need to go on the operations side. So I left a more lucrative sales job to go manage people, right? And you're always a better salesperson when you know what it's like after you close the deal, what it's like to implement the deal, manage people internally. And so that was deliberate. So I said 700 salespeople. I don't want to be one of 700. Let me go
Mm-hmm.
be the manager of 700 people. And so that was deliberate. And then it was okay, now that I have the sales side, now that I had the operations side, in venture capital at that point, there was a lot of push towards, and Mark Andreessen started this at A16, was like, I have so many portfolio companies, but I don't even know what I have. So he started hiring MBA students out of Stanford to be his operating analyst or partners. And they
Mm-hmm.
would go into the portfolio company because they had hundreds of them and they would say, what the hell's going on inside of the company? Like, should we double down on this? Should we give them more money? Like, I need to know so I can double down on the winners. And so that's how I got into the venture fund. Not just because I was a investment banker at JP Morgan, because I wasn't. I couldn't model a spreadsheet to save my life. But I could go in and say, do these people like each other? Is the manager good? Like,
Yeah.
do they have the right fundamentals? Like, that's where I created a bunch of value. And at the time, that's what the market was sort of demanding because I couldn't get in on the investment side. I just didn't have I wasn't a McKinsey consultant. I couldn't go in and do that stuff. And so I was like, here's a gap. Here's what I can fill. And then I fell in love with the founder relationship. And so what I loved about venture capital was like helping founders grow and scale. What I hated was all the financial engineering. And I
Yeah.
said, great, I don't have to do that. Someone else, the investment partner will do that. And I was the operating partner. And so we worked really well together because she didn't know what I knew. I didn't really care to know what she did. And like we knew enough to be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really what entrepreneurs need. And at that time, it was, the market always cycles. And at that time, the market was up, interest rates were zero, and it was like raise money, raise money, raise money, raise money. And then in 2020, venture capital said, okay, we'll operate better. And portfolio and founders said, how do I do that? And venture capital says, I don't know, I've never been an operator. so that's why I started August Hill. So honestly, I got
Yeah.
out of venture because many investors haven't been on the operator side.
Yeah.
And so you'll see a lot of new venture funds now are like, oh, we're founder first, we're operator led.
Mm-hmm.
We've done this before. That was the trend that came after a bunch of investment
Wow.
bankers that didn't know, like when the market turned and money was not as cheap, they needed to figure out how to operate better.
Okay. So like every time I talk to people who are in private equity or or who are venture capitalists, they always talk about like the founder relationship, right? You have pitch decks and all of that stuff that come into play, but
Yep.
how do you trust and how do you know the founder is capable of taking a company from 5 million ARR to 10 or maybe 15, you know?
It's a great question. So we could spend a whole hour on that. So I'll try not to. It is my passion project for the last 5 years is to help founders through their journey. And what I learned on the venture capital or private equity is different. It's later stage.
Hmm.
It's a different set of challenges. So we'll talk about venture capital and founders. Is that investors always say I invest in founders, not in product, because product's going to change a million times, and it
Yeah.
does. And so when you write an angel check into a deal, one, a lot of venture capital had never written a check in their own money into anything, which is I found quite interesting.
Hmm.
Once you do, you sit across from someone and you have coffee and they pitch you and you like glaze over because you've heard this iteration a million times in a different thing. And for me, it's not what you've done, it's who are you.
Hmm.
And one of my new passions is trying to figure out how to have founders tell investors who they are, not what they've done. Because what you need to
Mm.
prove is that you are the 1% that should build this product.
Yeah.
And so, how do you prove grit, determination, the willingness to work? I'm not one of these venture capitalists that believe in the Chinese 996, like 9 hours a day for, or whatever the thing is that you've got to work, 6 days a week for, run yourself into the ground. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that you have to get to the why. Um, I I sent you guys a survey when we started, right?
Yeah.
None of those questions were about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
They were about who you are and why you're building the things that you're building. And that's what I care about. I think the industry is moving and investors are starting to realize that they're in two camps. They're in this like you need to be a founder that works 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, or you'll never make it. Or like, I'm going to give you space to be a human being and like actually function and like not burn out. And I think it's a camp divided.
Mm-hmm.
And any venture capitalist that says they have the formula is wrong because the data proves that you don't know who's going to win. And what I'm really scared about for you guys is that the machines are starting to take over due diligence now.
Yeah.
And so when you upload your deck to Y Combinator, and no offense to Y Combinator, but like a machine's probably looking at that first.
Yeah.
And they're saying, how do these two guys look against Zuckerberg and Brian Chesky? Are they the next two? Who knows, right? Like, and so you don't get a chance to say who you really are.
Yeah.
So how do you tell an investor, I walked in here and you guys said, yep, we're here all day. And, I don't know if that's what you want me to hear. If that's the truth. I believe you guys that you're here all day. And I
Yeah.
believe that but how do you show that to someone like me who wants to write a check?
Mm-hmm.
It's not over a coffee, right? It's your friends are probably going to have to tell me. Somebody else that you did. Your teachers are going to have, like, you're going to have to create you're going to give me some way that I get to know who you are because I don't care what you're building, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like it's gonna change. And so I just care that you can pick yourself back up when you get knocked down, that you don't mind hearing no, and that we can figure out the problem together because it's just gonna change.
So it seems as if it's like a very long process for you when going about it. Like there's so many
Yeah, I
variables
mean, I
that go
wouldn't give
into it.
anybody my money probably under 6 months without knowing them. And
Mm-hmm.
like, now that's different at a fund. You have to make a determination probably quicker than that. But how do you determine, is it because you have the right school logo, you have the right job logo? Like, does Goldman Sachs and Yale make you because they believe that you're capable? Does that mean that I believe you're capable? I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know either of those organizations, right? So like I want the no nerd policy, right? I don't want nerds. I want someone that's going to work hard. I want blue
Yeah.
collar. I want somebody that like comes from a place where they had a second job during school, and like
Mm-hmm.
what I want is different than maybe what some other fun wants. So I think it all depends on your past, on your past experiences. Unfortunately, on your previous bias, we call it pattern recognition. I just call it bias.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen this before, and so I can stereotype what this thing is, and so it's really hard for people. I think it's gonna be really hard. I know it's really hard for entrepreneurs today to show some separation in a machine-led world, and it's
Yeah.
gonna get better. It's gonna get worse before it gets better, right? The machine is gonna do more, and how do human beings keep their humanity in the entrepreneurship process is like the thing that I want to do with the last 10, 20 years of my career is figure out how to keep humans at the center of entrepreneurship, not machines. Use machines for what they're good at. I want them to build models that are good at that. I don't want them to make decisions on capital because that just gets the pool smaller because you need data that looks back 40 years through Silicon Valley, and like that just makes the pool of capital smaller because it's going
Yeah.
to go to the same people from the same schools that look the same.
I remember like when we were on one of the accelerator lives that you said like as an angel investor, as an investor in other businesses, when you write that check, you might as well just like kiss that money
Yep,
goodbye.
absolutely. Like if it's like most investments, maybe not like bonds or something in the S&P, but like
Mm-hmm.
if you're a venture investor, it's 9 out of 10 is the failure rate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I told you guys before, 6 out of 10 times the company's going to fail because you're going to have co-founder conflict.
Yeah.
So it's about the people, not even the product. That same intern that has a business today, 6 months ago, he said, Martin and I, who I know is his best friend from, they went to the, MBA, they've known each other forever.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're starting this business. I said, kiss your friendship goodbye. And he's like, no, we worked on everything. We have
Yeah.
bro sessions. They call them bro sessions. And
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are going to hate each other. And he was like, Shawn, no. And like, so they've now split up because Martin's getting married and he needs a real job. And, now they're fighting about equity. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to cause any problems here on the set,
No,
but like,
yeah.
you have to have hard conversations. And so
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
if I would have given them money when they asked me for money, I'm like, you already have co-founder conflict. Now you have to find a new co-founder.
Yeah.
Now, like, so there's just so many things that are hard in the beginning that you might as well kiss your money goodbye.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because me and Jimmy and even Cade, like the amount of arguments that we've gotten into are insane. And like we all come from like the wrestler fighter background. So like we know what it's like to get into fights with each other. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like that's the one thing I do like though, is because like I remember me and Jimmy used to go to wrestling camps and like we used to get into fist fights over like just wrestling.
Yeah.
So like I feel like that's the one thing that we do have going for us, is that we've all kind of been in that conflict before, to where
You
it's
need
like,
you need like, conflict is healthy,
yeah.
and it's going to happen, and you are, now I've started several businesses,
Mhm.
and you're all fighting over some imaginary pot of gold at the end. And I
Exactly.
told you that before. Like, everyone looks at the zeros and all these other things, and like, you're like negotiating over to negotiate right now.
Mhm.
And I always tell people, when I started the advisory business with founders, I said, I usually ask for equity in the company as an advisor, and not a bit, but I'm not going to ask for any to start, because you don't know me, I don't know you.
Mhm.
And I think entrepreneurs, when they start, everyone's like, okay, let's go form this company, and we had a few beers and a napkin and a pen, and we have this thing, and it's gonna be great. And like, you actually never like worked together, and you might known about each other, and maybe you wrestled or you did all these, but like,
Mhm.
working together and being friends are two different
It's
things.
totally,
It's like
yeah.
living together. It's
It's
like your
true.
first roommate. You're like, that's my buddy, and you're like,
And then you
God,
hate them by the end
yeah,
of the school year.
yeah,
That's how
yeah,
it goes. It's
yeah.
true.
So
Yeah.
it's the same thing in business, except it's more high pressure, because it's
Mhm.
not school. It's like, I can't eat, right? And I
Yeah.
don't want ramen anymore. And like, and so, and there's these high pressured things, and like, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And then when there's more zeros involved, right? You
Yeah.
raise $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, right? Like, there's a lot of pressure involved. So it can work. Um, it's not 10 out of 10 fail, it's 6. And so
Yeah.
it's just like a marriage, right? It's about the same as
Yep.
like, as a divorce rate, for that's what it is. It just is. So
Yeah.
like, as long as you recognize that, then you can take steps to remedy that, and to
Yeah.
just like, just have the hard question, just have the hard conversations earlier.
Yeah.
It's like any relationship. Like, don't figure out if you want to have kids till after you're married. Like, you should probably talk about that
Yeah,
before.
of course.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up pressure, because pressure is like my favorite word in business. And like you said, it gets worse because there's more zeros at the end of the number, all of
Yeah.
that. So when it comes to you with pressure and
Yeah.
venture capital, corporate America, no matter
Yeah.
what it is, how do you deliver on a deadline every time?
You'll never deliver every time.
Okay.
Um, it's just impossible. And you might deliver, but not to your standard.
Mhm.
Um, I'd like to say I am better now at seeing what's coming, because you just have more experience.
Yeah.
And so I started a business 4 or 5 years ago. I say it ended in failure. It's still alive today. It's like, it's your expectation of what success or failure looks like. Um, I was I lived in Mexico City for the last 4 years before I moved back, and like, I got to see what cultures looks like, failure looks like in different cultures.
Mhm.
And like, in Mexico, you're not allowed to fail.
Yeah.
No one will say they fail, so they'll say yes to everything. But in the US, you could fail. And so
Yeah.
you have like these really, or if you look at, Asian countries or other things, like, what is the definition of failure, and how entrepreneurs especially deal with that. Um, how do you deal with the pressure and the failure? Like, I think you have to be okay with yourself. And I'm still learning this today. Like,
Yeah.
time heals. I hate to give like all these cliches, but
Mm-hmm.
like I was like, man, I failed. And it's like, did you really fail, or did you like, what you have to realize is that you are where you are today because of the experiences that you have in the past. And I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be sitting here today with what I'm doing if I was so successful with that thing I would have done in the past. I wouldn't be here today, right? Because
Yeah.
if I didn't walk away from that, or if that wasn't so, I think you just have to, it's so cliche to say, but you have to take the lessons and you have to move on to the next thing. No matter how much that hurts, or for people like me, no matter how much that dents your big ego, you're like, here's the thing. I tell every founder when they shut down, don't jump into something else. Like, take a month and go right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did I learn? How do I not,
Reflect.
you do have to, because everyone wants to, like, it's like a breakup. You want to break up and go on a date the next night to
Yep.
get it out of your head, right? So,
That's true.
but you need like a little bit of time to and go do that, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
like, I think you just need some time to reflect, because it is a lesson learned, and you're going to make the same mistakes again, even though you say you're never going to make them again. And so, I think you have to have a inherent belief in yourself. And I think that's the way to deal with all of that pressure. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be okay. And a little bit of reflection and levity. I told you a story. I lost my college best friend and college roommate in
Mm-hmm.
college. I was like, is it that bad?
Yeah.
And that was like, unfortunately, we all have sad stories and all those other
Yeah.
things, but I'd known like it's actually not that bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got up today, I'm still here, and
Yep.
like, let's move on. And so everyone can find the thing that gives them the motivation. I've had it since a very young age, unfortunately, but like, or fortunately. And I look back and then like, okay, we're still here. We'll get up today. We'll
Yep.
go face the world, and
Keep
we'll do it
moving.
again. Yeah, exactly.
That's very well put, I think.
So, looking at your background with different sectors and like investing, it seems as if you were in a big like tech and like sort of background where you focus on that. Do you focus on sectors when you look at people? I know you said you focus on the character, you don't care about the product, but sector wise, are you like aiming for certain sectors or something like
Yeah,
that?
well, a good piece of advice investing is invest in things you know about. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, when I went down to Mexico during COVID, a lot of U.S. investors would come down and say, "Yeah, I saw this deal in Mexico or Brazil or like Chile. It's great." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Have you been to any of those places before? Like, should probably step foot in the country that you know."
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people look at stuff that's opportunistic, or like, "Oh, I'm going to do this crypto thing and I don't even know what that means," or "I'm going to do this real estate thing and I don't know what that means." And so,
Yeah.
I think it's always helpful to understand the industries that you're going to invest in and go deep. The venture fund I worked at was very heavily in real estate technology. I knew that from the mortgage side, 'cause I spent a lot of time in mortgage. It was like construction and sustainability. So I always had, and then like financial services, because I had like the mortgage and lending background. So I stuck to a lot of those things that I knew about because I had deep domain expertise. And so I could say, I run a sales team that sold something like this. I know
Mm-hmm.
that can't scale. And so I would call it to my investment partner, like the BS meter. She'd be like, "Oh, this thing's great." And I was like, "Let me go talk to someone in the organization." And I could figure out very quickly, yes or no.
Yeah.
And so another piece of advice I give to younger people is like, with all of the AI, like, you're going to have to know the industry really, really well,
Yeah.
because it's never going to be perfect, and it's going to give you a bunch of outputs, and maybe they'll get better over time. Who knows? They're getting worse from 4 to 5.
Yeah.
But
It's still
like,
gonna
yeah,
hallucinate no
right.
matter
It's
what.
still so like, you have to know that, and that's going to separate you. And so I think as an investor, if you can get really deep in a few, and I have a few, so now we look at like med tech and engineering. I have no
Okay.
idea, but what I do know is like, go surround yourself with people that know that really well for the intelligence, because then I can go and I can sit across from a founder and know pretty quickly if the founder's going to make it versus the technology, and then is the team set up. And so there's some general things that you can take that are tangential to, that are core to a business.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can, okay, well, I don't know this particularly well, but I can go find an expert who knows this well to inform me if this is going to be the right place to spend time. So I usually stick to the things that I know, and then you have to surround yourself with other people that have expertise outside of you, or you just do that thing really, really, really well.
Yeah.
So
So another thing too, with your background and coming from a South Jersey kid, because like we feel from that, like we understand that everything you've accomplished so far, in your eyes, like what is your most proudest accomplishment with everything?
um, it's always the feeling or the comment that I get from the people that I've run across in my career, either managing or mentoring. And like, even with you guys, I know it sounds like really like the proudest thing that I have is that I get to come back to the place that like didn't look like this. I applied to Glassboro State, got into Rowan College in
Yeah.
1992. Like, I didn't even come back to campus for 20 some years. And I came back and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, wait, you guys want me to speak at the School of Entrepreneurship for your venture fund? I was like, you have a School of Entrepreneurship and a venture fund? Like, I had no idea, right? I was so far away. I would come home for weddings and holidays and see my friends and
Mm-hmm.
fly in and out of town, right? And I grew up 30 minutes from here, but never here. And so when they said, do you want to get involved? I was like, the best thing that I can do with the rest of my career is come back and help the students and the entrepreneurs know that there's a path to do something greater. Like Simone Biles said, you can't be what you can't see, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, if all I can do is come back and say, there was an alumni here that went on to work at X, Y, or Z, and I can go into venture capital or private equity, or I could run a fund one day. Like, my hope is that what we are building creates an ecosystem in South Jersey for entrepreneurship, and that entrepreneurs don't have to go to Philly or New York or Chicago or Austin to go be entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
They can stay here and they can build here, and that will be. And if I can have a little part of that, and I always say like it's such an indictment that I'm the guy in the last 30 years that they picked. I'm like,
Yeah.
anyway, I find it quite surreal that it's me sometimes. I still have imposter syndrome 28 years later.
Yeah.
Like, when I'm doing the TED talk on campus, they're like announcing me, and I'm like, are they talking about me? Like, I'm just an idiot. But like, that's the greatest thing I think that I can come back is be a resource and to show people that you can be from South Jersey, you can go to Rowan, and you can do anything you want. And I know
Yeah.
that sounds so corny and like,
But it's true.
but I look back on most days I wake up and I laugh. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
I giggle because I think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. So
Yeah.
It's
That's
like
good.
crazy to like think about that because like we have big aspirations, big dreams, and it's like you're in a position now where it's like you've achieved like things that you never even thought were possible.
absolutely.
So like one thing I like to say too is when growing, because we're hitting like stages in our business now where it's like we've never been here before, we never thought we were gonna get here. Um, we sit back sometimes and it's like, What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
Yep.
So what do you do when you're in a position like I know we talked about it a little bit, but like when you're in a position where it's like you don't know the answer,
Yeah.
you're getting scared because it's like, all right, I'm just a South Jersey kid. Is there like a ritual you do? Do you have something where it's like
Yeah.
I do this to calm myself down and bring me back to earth?
Yeah. I mean, I go for a run. I think that's like, I when I need to do that, I need to like level set. It's funny you say, and I really tease like I'm just a South Jersey. Like, I've gotten over that because I've gotten over that, and probably just really like recently.
Yeah.
Like, there's no difference in where you run. I've been in rooms with billionaires. I've been on Madison Avenue in New York, and I've been in San Francisco and so and like they're just people, and they're insecure, and you know, everyone is they have the same feelings you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's just at a different level. And they're like, "Oh, I went to Columbia, I couldn't get into Yale." And like, I'm not good enough. Or my dad wanted me to go to Goldman Sachs and I work at Morgan Stanley. Like, whatever, like it's just different levels, right?
Yeah.
And like, I think maybe it was like being in Miami or being in LA, or like there's always levels.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're Bezos or the garbage man, there's always just levels. And so I think you've got to believe in yourself, and you keep that chip on your shoulder, because it's what's driven me, that I will show everyone because where I'm from. And like, there's someone sitting in West Virginia that's like, I wish I was from South Jersey, right?
Yeah.
They're like, look at where I grew up, like, and then I look around and go, it's a good place and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that like keep that desire. Find the thing that I tell entrepreneurs, you tend to lose the thing that makes you the most human during the entrepreneurship. You're like, I used to bike 100 miles a day and now I don't because
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur. Like you have to bring the things along that got you there. I I'm an entrepreneur because I like autonomy and freedom. I don't like fancy cars, big houses. I just never have. I want to get
Yeah.
on a plane and go to a different place and see something I've never seen before and talk to someone I've never talked to before. So I'm not optimizing for, the McMansion somewhere and, the Ferrari. It's just like I wouldn't even know what to do with it. I don't it
Yeah.
makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But what I want is like, to jump on a plane and I have to somewhere that I haven't gone. So like find a thing that keeps you whole and make sure you bring that along with you. No matter how successful you are, no matter where you go, no matter what the time crunch is, there's always 30 minutes to meditate, to run, to bike, to wrestle, whatever makes you whole. Keep that with you because it's a hard journey. I call it the collateral damage of being an entrepreneur. It's not just you, it's your family, it's your friends, your kids, your wife, whatever that is. You are going to create this extreme collateral damage as you go along the journey. And so you have to be honest with the people around you about what this relationship's going to be like
Mm-hmm.
and bring the things along with you that make you the most whole human that you were before you started.
That's really good. Yeah,
Keeping
I
true to
like that.
yourself, and
You
I
have
feel like
to like
yeah,
at the end of the day, no one's I was just with my girlfriend's great grandmother who's 103, right? And she's driving and she's made lunch and dinner for us and she was out in the garden and I'm just like, what is it? And she was just like, dessert. I was like, that's your key to life is dessert? And she's like, it's what makes me happy. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah, you have to have the thing that makes you happy still. And, whether it's cherry pie that she likes or something else, like
Yeah.
no one's, she's like, I'm not going to get on my deathbed and think about like, anything else besides the thing that made me the most whole, right? It's life is short
Yeah.
and, you have to keep your humanness throughout this really hard thing. And I think if you can have perspective, don't take yourself too seriously. Like I laugh at myself all the time because I think things are just like silly and funny and like the world's just a hard place. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you can continue to laugh, I think it'll make the journey much more fun.
Nice. Do you want to ask the question about AI?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
every
We ask
Great.
this to every person who
Great.
comes on.
Okay.
person. So it's like we have an AI company, obviously.
Yep.
So we like to ask, what is your opinion on AI? Whether do you think it's a good thing for the future, bad thing for the future, and do you incorporate it in any of your operations?
So yes, I incorporate it and I use it a lot. Um, do I think it's a good thing or a bad thing? I am focused right now on a few things personally around AI. And I think that one is this humanity inside the AI, and I just talked about it. I am scared that your generation doesn't know how to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I'm scared that AI will continue to force us to in much more digital realms than we are. And I never thought I would be the old guy that sat up here and it was like, when I was a kid, we came home when the street lights came on, but it was like
Mm-hmm.
I was never inside. I'd never had a video, even though video games were out, like I never had a video game console. And I just like, I see my nieces and nephews and I see other people and it's just more like, I'm not scared. I'm just worried that people don't know how to communicate. And I don't know if that's an AI issue or where that is, but to write and to talk and to like walk into a room of 50 people you don't know and own it is a hard skill when you're not forced to do a lot of those things and you're probably forced to do less of those things. So I think we should use it as a tool. I don't want it to drive a wedge between us, and whether that's generational, whether that's interpersonal, like that's my biggest fear. Like I want it to cure cancer and Alzheimer's and all those, or help
Yeah.
us do those things. What I don't want it to do is drive us apart from a sort of a haves and have nots. And anytime there's a technology, it drives a wedge in between the people that can use it and the people that can't. And so the people that don't have compute power versus it's like GPU, I have GPU access and I don't. That creates even more of an economic divide.
Mm-hmm.
And we're already spreading that. So I think it will allow anyone to create, which is great. Like I think people that don't have the ability to create because they don't have maybe the skill sets or the access or monetary, and you can get to revenue faster. Um, but I think it also will allow people without skills to hide behind the technology. A bit of when code and technology is not your differentiator, what is? And that's the thing. And I know it's human. I know it's the human being that is. Like I feel it in my bones. I know that humans are the differentiator when tech is commoditized. And so AI will commoditize a lot of tech. And so it's up to the human to say, here's my differentiator. I am the moat. It's not my technology. Because you can build an MVP, you can build a company. We can start today, and Monday we can have something, next Monday we can have something in market making money.
Yeah.
So what is the differentiation? If everyone can do that, it's us, right? And
Yep.
so that's I don't know if it's a fear, I don't know if it's a worry, I don't know if that's an excitement thing, like, but I know more people will be driven to entrepreneurship because AI will take traditional jobs. And I'm not here to make these bold predictions of 80% or 90% or white collar. I do fear that 22-year-olds, or actually feel 17-year-olds that are going in college that ask me like, what should I want to be a venture capital analyst. I said, you better go be a chemist or something else, because they're not, or a lawyer or those type of things,
Yeah.
right? Or just go be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Like go be an entrepreneur, because like I think AI will force a lot of entrepreneurism. So how do we help entrepreneurs deal with the collateral damage of being an entrepreneur, and help them get to a place where they understand what they're getting into and that they are the differentiator, not the tech or the code.
Nice. Well, thank
Very
you,
good.
Shawn Hill.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was great having you on the Thrive podcast. We really
I
appreciate your
really
time.
enjoyed being here. Hope that was helpful.
It
Yeah.
was.
I think
Yeah.
people will love that story.
Yeah, of course. So
All
we'll
right.
see you guys in the
I'm
next
just a
one.
South Jersey kid. That's
Yeah.
still a South Jersey kid.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.